Denny Hamlin says negotiations between NASCAR and the teams have not been going well, and Kaulig Racing silly season rumors continue to heat up. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Happy Friday. Have you listened to the latest episode of Power Hour? This week, Brennan Poole and I were joined by perhaps the hottest driver in the Xfinity series right now, Sam Mayer. We had a great conversation about the challenging mental aspect of the sport when you're trying to find your way. Brennan and I also talked quite a bit about the two big Daytona crashes, how hits in the next-gen car feel differently, how drivers respond to crashes and talk to each other about those kinds of moments. Some really good stuff. If you haven't listened to or seen the latest episode of Power Hour, I'll put all the links you need down in the description below. But today, we've got some NASCAR news to catch up on. Let's start with some good news. Ryan Preece confirmed he will race this weekend at Darlington. He released this short, dramatic, motivational hype video on social media. He was on SiriusXM NASCAR radio and said that he feels great. He was checked multiple times this week, no concussion. He commended NASCAR's safety improvements. It's remarkable that not only did Ryan Preece walk away from a scary crash like that, but then just days later, he's ready to strap in and do it all again. He said it best in his tweet a few nights ago, if you're going to be a race car driver, you've got to be tough. Good luck to Ryan Preece this weekend at Darlington. Really cool to see he'll be back in the car, not missing any time. Before we talk about the latest and greatest free agency rumors, I want to touch on this topic real quick. Yesterday, Denny Hamlin was asked about the ongoing charter negotiations between the race teams and between NASCAR. And Jenna Fryer of the Associated Press tweeted or posted these posts to X, formerly known as Twitter. Denny Hamlin on how negotiations are going with NASCAR leadership on a new business model. Quote, not well. I think the team's ask has been very legitimate and not often left field. You're going to have to chase down Jim France and ask for a reason because there's not really been a good reason, but the answer has been no. Very, very interesting. Denny Hamlin is uniquely qualified to speak on this because while he is a driver, he also co-owns 2311 Racing. Curtis Polk of 2311 has been very involved in these meetings. Steve Newmark from RFK, I believe Jeff Gordon from Hendrick, and who am I missing? Dave Alpern from Joe Gibbs Racing, I believe, has also been heavily involved in these negotiations. But Denny Hamlin says right there, negotiations are not going well, in his view. For what it's worth, Chris Rice, team president of Kaulig Racing, was on Door Bumper Clear this week, and he actually sounded very confident in how the negotiations are going, but he also admitted that he himself has not been in those meetings. But let's focus on Denny Hamlin's comments here. There's not much that's new, I guess, about them other than we're later in the game. We're now into September, and it sounds like the two sides are not close to striking a deal. As month after month goes by, I think the tension, the pressure is only going to go up. But we don't really know anything new. I mean, according to previous reports, the sticking point between NASCAR and the teams is the charter agreement. The teams want to make the charter system permanent to protect their investment. NASCAR, on the other hand, specifically Jim France, does not want to make it permanent. He wants to extend it, but he also wants to reserve the right to maybe change it in the future if needed. That's where we're at. I don't blame the teams for trying to stick up for themselves and stand their ground. Teams like 2311, Trackhouse have spent tens of millions of dollars the past couple of seasons acquiring these charters so that they could set themselves up for the long term. It seems honestly ridiculous to me that NASCAR would continue to dangle the possibility in front of them that they could take those charters back or wipe the charter system out completely, rendering that previous investment completely worthless. I'm sure it's unlikely at this point that NASCAR would completely get rid of the charter system, but the fact that that's even a possibility, that they refuse to make the system permanent, I don't blame the teams for being very concerned. Investment is going to slow down. It has slowed down as long as potential team owners don't feel like their investment is secure. The charter system may not have been perfect when it was implemented 7-8 years ago, but now that it's here and it's been here, I don't see how you couldn't bite the bullet and make it permanent at this point. I know it's a way more complicated negotiation than I'm making it out to sound, but the charter system is at the core of the issue. That is the primary sticking point. This story will be very interesting to follow over the next few months. Hopefully they get a deal done before the end of the year. We're still waiting on the next media rights deal to be signed and confirmed. But let's change the subject. Let's talk about NASCAR free agency for a moment, specifically Kaulig Racing. Earlier this week, we talked about Matt DiBenedetto, who suddenly announced that he will be departing Rackley War Racing, Truck Series team, at the end of this season. And I noticed a ton of comments under that video from you guys suggesting that Matt DiBenedetto could go to Kaulig to drive the number 31 Cup Series car. Chris Rice, team president, said recently that the 31 is set for next year and that fans may be a little surprised who drives it. The timing of those comments, combined with Matt DiBenedetto, who's in the Truck Series playoffs, announcing he's leaving his team, led many fans to try and do the math. I got a ton of comments here on Out of the Groove. Let's take at least one of those comments from Out of the Crowd. Again, I got many comments saying very much the same thing. I wanted to pick this one out from NASCAR 77. Bold prediction, Matt will go to Kaulig Racing full-time in 2024 in the 31. Because Kaulig did say that people would be surprised by Kaulig's decision on who would be in the 31 next year. And with Matt just now announcing this late that he would leave the 25, this leads me to think that Matt actually already had a contract signed for 2024. Again, that's kind of what I just said. I got a ton of comments suggesting that Matt DiBenedetto to Kaulig makes sense. The timing is no coincidence. I hear you guys. I really do. And I hate to be a Debbie Downer. I highly, highly doubt Matt DiBenedetto drives for Kaulig Racing next year. My initial reaction when we read DiBenedetto's statement on the show the other day was that this must be him actually making the choice to leave. And if that is the case, he must at least have some feelers, maybe a lead out there for a potential ride. But the other night, I was actually talking to some friends of mine, and it hit us. Rackley War is owned by a couple of guys, one of them being Curtis Sutton. Curtis Sutton has a 17-year-old son named Dawson who races late models in a Rackley-sponsored car. I don't know much about him. I don't know how good he actually is, but he's almost 18, which means he's almost eligible to race in trucks full time. I know if I owned a Truck Series team and I was funding nearly every race out of my own pocket or using my roofing business, I would want to put my kid in that car. That's the way this often works, especially in trucks in Xfinity. So the more and more I thought about it, I actually think Matt DiBenedetto was let go. I hate to say it. I know the team came out and said it was a mutual decision, but I think when push comes to shove, DiBenedetto was shown the door. Not necessarily due to lack of performance, but racing is very much a numbers game, and blood is thicker than water. The family ties in racing are everywhere. Just speculation on my part, but if I had to guess, I don't think Matt DiBenedetto has a plan for next year as of now. He said in his statement he's open to any opportunities in Cup, Xfinity, or trucks. He's putting feelers out there beginning now. He's looking for his next opportunity. I don't think it will be with Kaulig Racing. But let's stay on Kaulig Racing for a moment, because the 31 is not the only available Kaulig Cup Series seat. The 16 does not have a driver set for next season. Obviously, AJ Allmendinger could very well return. He was this close to making the playoffs, honestly, even on points. He was top 20 in points. He was close to winning at Watkins Glen. AJ Allmendinger is a very good driver, but he kind of stepped away from full-time Cup Series racing once already. Who's to say he doesn't do it again? I was watching PRN, the Performance Racing Network's YouTube channel, earlier this week. I'll put a link to the video down in the description below. But Lee Spencer, once again from catchfence.com, was on the show. And remember, she's the same reporter who mentioned she'd heard that 2311 had met with Ford a few weeks back. Very reputable reporter. She has a ton of experience in this sport. And this week, she was on PRN discussing who might get that Kaulig Racing number 16.
But hearing that the Kaulig ride potentially would be Hemrick or Ty Dillon.
Yeah.
This is what we're hearing. Nothing set in stone.
These are just rumors. She makes that clear right there. She's not reporting or confirming anything. She's just throwing some names out there that she's heard. So let's react for a moment. First off, I expect Ty Dillon to be out of the 77 at Spire. There's been rumors swirling that Carson Hocevar is going to take over that seat. That's not confirmed. That's just the leading rumor. Daniel Hemrick, of course, drives for Kaulig Racing in the Xfinity Series right now. Let's start with Daniel Hemrick. If Daniel Hemrick were to get the number 16 next year, go back to the Cup Series full time, it wouldn't be the most exciting choice. I'll just be honest. But he wouldn't be a terrible choice either. I know he only has one Xfinity Series win, but he's been good enough in the past to win a championship. He's got multiple Championship 4 appearances. He's consistent. More times than not, he takes care of his equipment. This year in Xfinity, I think he only has 2 finishes of worse than 30th, and one of them was at Daytona. He also has a full year of Cup Series experience. It was pre-next gen, but in that season with RCR, he still grabbed a couple of top 10s, and RCR did not look as competitive then as they do now. Again, Hemrick would not be the most exciting pick, but I'd understand it. I think he has some sponsorship, some support. We've seen Circle on his car in Xfinity a bunch this year. Poppy Bank historically has had a relationship with him. I'm not sure if that relationship is still going or still strong, but he'd bring a little bit of funding and he's not going to embarrass you. He's not going to go out there and wreck your stuff every week. So not a flashy pick by any means, but I'd get it if they go with Daniel Hemrick. Ty Dillon, however, I'll just be honest, I don't understand that one. He's a capable enough race car driver, but at this point, we know he's not him. Just look at his last 2 years. Last year with Petty GMS, he had 1 top 10 all season, while his teammate Eric Jones had 13 and won a race. This year with Spire, he has 0 top 10s, while his teammate Corey LaJoie has a top 5 and an average finish that's like 7 or 8 positions better. Ty Dillon is not going to make your team better. I think at this point, we've established that. The only thing he has going for him, I guess, is that he brings some sponsorship. But even that, you look at Spire this year, they brought on Gamebridge to fill a lot of gaps. Some of the stuff I've heard, I'm not sure Ty Dillon brought as much sponsorship to Spire this year as they expected. So if you're signing Ty Dillon purely because he brings funding, I don't know. That's kind of risky at this point. I mean, I don't know. I really don't get it. I thought it was interesting on a Door Bumper Clear again this week. Chris Rice confirmed that, they were talking to Kyle Busch last year about driving for the team this season. I don't think it was ever really close to happening, but they had those talks. If this team ends up with Ty Dillon instead, and we don't know who's driving the 31 car at this point, but maybe that underwhelms as well. Man, a couple years ago, Kaulig Racing was one of the most exciting young teams in the sport. They've been surpassed by 23XI, Trackhouse, and I get that 23XI, they're a key Toyota partner. Trackhouse is a key Chevy partner. They've got more resources than Kaulig does. But back when Kaulig had Justin Haley and Ross Chastain and AJ Allmendinger tearing it up in Xfinity every week, this was an exciting team. Allmendinger in 2021 won a cup race at Indianapolis on a part-time schedule. This was an exciting team. A couple years ago, the Cup Series program just has not caught up. And if they go with Ty Dillon, and maybe even if they go with Daniel Hemrick, this team just feels like they're stagnating right now. Really curious to know who that surprising pick for the 31 is, or what their plan is. I still think there's a chance they go with multiple drivers for the 31 car, but we'll have to wait and see. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. If they go with Daniel Hemrick, if they go with Ty Dillon, do you think they're making a good decision there? Do you think there are better drivers on the market they should pursue? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. That button is right down there somewhere. We talk NASCAR every single day. And as always, a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. I will see y'all later this weekend. The Cup Series playoffs begin at Darlington. Southern 500, I believe it's on USA Network this Sunday evening. Hope y'all tune in. I'll be watching, and we'll be here afterwards to react. Thanks for watching, y'all. Hope y'all have a wonderful Labor Day weekend.